get rid of it first?
Yeah, that's all good. Okay. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, everyone. Inshallah, you're all well. Today, I'm joined by Sister Fahima Mohamed. Assalamu alaikum, sister. It's good to have you on as always. How are you?
Alaikum salam. Very well. Thank you for the invite. Really, really excited to be alongside you. So thank you.
No, thank you for coming on. Obviously, so we're addressing an online spat today between Brother Ali Dawah and some influencer sisters, Ayah and Jamila, which I'm sure you've heard about. Obviously the intention with this show is not to trash anyone or backbite them, but instead to try to be, peacemakers and hopefully calm the situation so that it's put to an end. Whether either side listens is another story, obviously. I didn't actually cover this topic initially due to the language and the innuendo that was being used, as it is quite explicit, and I actually felt secondhand embarrassment just hearing it, so we won't repeat it back. I've always said, and I think I said this to you yesterday, that I hate to see online beef between Muslims. With everything going on in the world, there's so many Islamophobes hating on us. The last thing that we should be doing is giving them more ammunition against us and not being united. But on the flip side, it is a Muslim's duty to call out wrong in our community. And I would assume that is what Brother Ali's intention was in this instance. Personally, I think he could have maybe got his wife to reach out to the sisters via private message initially to give them nasiha. I believe he did so himself. And maybe he went public because he felt a duty to correct these sisters for making public statements promoting things like divorce and rejecting hadith and their provocative online presentation, which I think were his main grievances. I don't know these sisters personally. I have messaged them previously, and I would also be open to having conversations with them should they wish to. But to clarify, any time that I've dealt with Brother Ali, he's always been honest and respectful, and I personally have never experienced negativity from him, nor has he ever caused me any issues. I think a lot of things that were said on both sides, there was a lot of things said on both sides, but when it comes to involving family members and Niqabi sisters being doxed, in this instance, Ali's wife, I think that's when it goes too far. Maybe the sisters involved felt Ali's comments about their family situation and him talking about them being divorced previously was also going too far. But regardless, revealing family members' identities is really dangerous, especially when there are literally far-right extremists who want to bring physical harm to Muslims that are public figures. I don't know, obviously, I know that you've seen this situation. What was your thoughts when you initially saw everything sort of unfold? What are your thoughts on the online back and forth between Ali Dawah and Sisters Ayah and Jamila?
Wow, it's such a sad topic, and I'm going to be honest, I haven't actually seen so much of the content. What I've seen is more of the reaction videos, so I don't know any of the sisters personally as well. I have obviously sat alongside Ali Dawah and, with his wife on a professional basis a couple of times, and that's as far as it goes. But I just think, like you said, we have so much going on in the world, and personally myself, I deal with global issues and Islamophobia, anti-Muslim hate, all the headlines, and I know that the rhetoric, especially in the Western world, in the UK, that where we reside, there is, a high amount of Islamophobia, and I'm constantly trying to fight that, and I do that as a visibly Muslim woman myself. And I have been also recommended for my services, but unfortunately, someone else also attacked me to say that my credentials are Western and my personal beliefs, because it's from a different type of Muslim, is not correct, and also mocking, what my beliefs are. And I feel that's from another so-called Muslim brother is no different to a far-right extremist as well, when I had absolutely nothing to do with anything. I did report it, and I think I live in the West and I can do that, even though whether anything comes of it is not, because as a Muslim woman, as you know, I work, I'm on my own, I travel, you know what I mean, and I don't take nonsense from anybody. So at the end of the day, I do that. But when it comes to this particular situation, I just want to make it very clear, regardless of what you feel and what you think, Islam obviously has a really high bar, and we are all here to strive. That's the whole interpretation from my perspective, Islamically, is that we are striving. We may or may not reach that bar. And I know people think, oh, you know, we don't want to say you're on a journey. So I'm not saying that we're on a journey, but we're all striving in our own ways to reach the bar. And I always feel that, you know, we do need to stand up for our sisters regardless, because I understand the mindset is different to men. And men, even when they make mistakes, I feel with the Muslim men, they do actually have each other's back. But when it comes to a Muslim woman, it's not like that. And they'll give 1,000 excuses for their brothers, but not necessarily for the sisters. And of course, I'm generalizing because I'm sure there has been situations where they have been called out too. But I think the sisters get the brunt of it, not just from the outside communities, outside Muslim communities, but also within, not just from men, but also from women. And a lot of these women are not claiming to be Muslim role models, scholars, ustadas. You know, they are speaking about their personal experiences, their trauma, their marriages, their healing. And yes, some of their actions may be wrong or inappropriate, but public sin is not the only kind of sin that exists. And many sins are hidden. Many misdeeds happen privately. So to scapegoat women simply because their flaws are more visible while excusing men because theirs happen to be behind closed doors is deeply hypocritical. And for me, I personally don't call myself any particular way. I'm here to just do what I do for the community. And if you're a professional, that's how it goes. I find it really ironic that some of the same Dawa brothers who insist they are representing Islam also, who use their platforms to preach modesty, humility, and prophetic character, are often the first to become defensive, aggressive, mocking, and demeaning when questioned. So again, it's not to anyone in particular. I'm just generalizing here. And you cannot claim to represent Islam while behaving in a manner that contradicts it. So, you know, Dawah, for example, is not a shield for bad behavior. It's a free pass for, you know, or, nor a free pass for religious bullying. So meanwhile, you know, a woman speaking even about her bad marriage, about healing or surviving heartbreak or abuse, is not promoting divorce. We always have to understand context. Sometimes, you know, she's not, you know, she's normalizing the idea that divorce is not the end of the woman's worth, which is exactly what the Qur'an and the classical scholarships emphasize. In our communities, divorced women are shamed instantly, while divorced men receive sympathy, excuses, the second, third, fourth chances. Even when a man is clearly the cause of a breakdown, majority of the times, women may call for it, but the reason is because they've probably, you know, put up for so long. So the double standard is glaring and unjust. And I do feel that we need to call that out, you know. And also, I feel like at the end of the day, no matter what, I get everyone criticizing me for being divorced, even though I didn't come from an abusive marriage. It was unfortunate how it ended, but regardless, I have a really respectful relationship with my ex. And even my children, you know, at the end of the day, they have such a healthy relationship with both sides of the family. I think a lot of people don't realize that actually after divorce, it doesn't happen in most cases, but I'm one of the fortunate ones that are able to manage relationships, which, you know, most people might want to hate. And I've come out on the other end, not. Of course, you have to take into context, some people just cannot go back, especially when it's abusive. But I'm just trying to say, what does that say about a divorcee? If you really know their story as well, and if they are co-parenting, they are healing others, they're helping others. But no, men will just say, oh, she's a divorcee, that's it. Just, you know, stay clear. Don't go to her for any sort of advice. Don't go to her professionally. She's only going to be, you know, coming from her own sort of unhealed wounds. And they just generalize in such a way that, again, is demonizing. So for me, I have a different stance. I said, even if, you know, certain women do certain things wrong, like I said, I still will stand up for them. I still will do things unless, of course, it's completely, you know, haram, completely unlawful, illegal. And again, we have to know, like, let's be honest, practicing, you know, we basically have so many different types of madhabs. So many different scholars will interpret things differently. So we need to also understand that what is my beliefs and what is acceptable to me from my scholars is different to even yours. So again, you know, we have a lot of Salafis and Wahhabis, and they approach things differently. It's not universal. You know, Muslims are not like that. We've got Sunni, Shia, Sufi, traditional Hanafi, Maliki, Shafi. You know, at the end of the day, even people claiming that I'm not Muslim, you know, like as if they are there as the ultimate judge as well. That in itself is not lawful. But we hear that and we see that. So that's where I'm coming from, really.
Mm-hmm. And I respect that, and I completely understand a lot of your points and the things that you're saying. As I said, all the innuendo talk definitely made me uncomfortable, especially when it's bordering on zina. I do think it's overstepping the mark to talk about the brother and his wife's marital intimacy, as well as encouraging her to divorce him. But again, maybe because the brother spoke about the sisters being divorced, that was him overstepping the mark for them. Brother Ali did, however, apologise, for the comments that he made about their makeup and their eyelashes and their appearance. And if we're thinking Islamically, I can see Ali Dawah's point. I think if this had been done with better manners, as in Brother Ali not being as scolding and the sisters not mocking him in response, this could have been handled more smoothly. But like you said, none of us are perfect. We're all online. Mistakes can be made. We're all at different stages with our deen, and hopefully growing on a daily basis. I have seen a few of the videos that Brother Ali made clarifying the situation, where his wife also clarified their home life is good and that he's a good father, he's a good husband. And from watching those videos, I saw Sister Ayah say that she did follow feminism as an ideology. So for me, using labels like misogynist and Dawa boys, which I personally don't like, and accusing him of being controlling, humiliating, and deliberately targeting Muslim women, I think were unfair, because personally I've never experienced that. The brother also addressed this in his videos to prove otherwise. The sort of petty back and forth is what it is. But again, for me, like I said at the beginning, the doxing part is going too far. I don't know who took the picture of Brother Ali when he was out with his family, but for Sister Ayah to post it, revealing his wife's identity, and then for Sister Jamila to share that post is not the right thing to do, especially since Brother Ali's wife wears niqab and she doesn't wish to be online like that. Also, for them to mock the sister's looks was not right. I personally don't see anything wrong with how the sister looks. And again, they probably did so because they felt insulted for being called out for their looks and maybe being used on some thumbnails. Islamically, nobody should be mocking looks. We shouldn't be disrespecting Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's creation. But in Brother Ali's case, he was calling out the Burj and them showing their aura, which is not exactly the same thing. And again, he did apologise. What do you make of the sister's behaviour in regards to doxing Ali Dawah's wife by revealing her image online?
Again, I just feel, from what I saw, she didn't actually mock. She said there were a lot of comments that were mocking and making descriptions, and she was just sort of, saying that this is what your wife looks like and this, that, and the other. But at the same time, if Ali Dawah's wife is in niqab online, and then if she's in public not, her reasoning was that she was in public without the niqab. So it could have been something that it could have been shared in her view. I don't know with the religious rulings, it is different. And obviously, again, like you said, to expose both sides did it in different ways. And I don't think anyone's correct 100%. I'm not here to judge anyone. I never, ever do. And I think that, like I said, there's a high bar in Islam. Whichever your ruling is and whatever you follow, you should be sort of adjusting yourself to that and understanding, what did I do? I think both sides and every one of us, including myself, needs to constantly have reflections and self-awareness and understand, look, what is my beliefs? What do I do? But I think when you're online as well, a lot of the times it is egotistic, where you're trying to, please your followers, say it in a particular way, do certain things, follow trends, put certain things out there, in order to make it look funny or whatever. There's a difference of generation. I don't know about her being a feminist. I don't know. And I don't like when people also keep using, if she admits it, that's a different story. There's different waves of feminism. The way I look at it personally is Islam gave women rights way before even Western world came out with this terminology, and there's different waves of it, which now is quite dangerous. People talk to me and say I'm feminist only because I'm outspoken. So I completely, debunk that. And I'm like, no, I know my rights and I know what I'm saying and I have a right to say it. And also there are differences because, we do live in a Western world where we are allowed to express ourselves Islamically and also publicly in a respectful way. As far as I'm concerned, I am. Other people may not think it. I mean, I'm debating MPs. I'm debating people, from extreme sort of views to ours generally. So as far as I'm concerned, I'm a very unique voice out there in the public, putting my face and identity and fighting for everyone, even if they want to claim that I'm not Muslim. okay, just because they don't see me the way that they believe in. So that's fine. I mean, I don't do things for praise or acknowledgement anyways, but I just think that when people are online and they have a presence and they see sometimes, you know, they do get sort of the reactions, it can actually probe that. So we have to also check ourselves. I think, you know, for me, we just got to always go back and think, you know, just like when you give criticism, are you giving criticism to actually help and lift that person with love? Or are you actually giving criticism to actually make yourself feel better and arrogant and putting them down? Very simple. Ask those questions before you speak, and that'll be that. For me, it's very simple. So that's what I mean by critical criticism, is that, you know, the way in which there are different techniques that you understand about understanding how to come across when you are even at work. And I'm a professional. I work on government contracts. When I do work, I am supervised. I'm vetted by the Ministry of Justice in the UK. I'm not just an ordinary person, you know, just coaching online or have some sort of like, you know, I don't know, a few months or weeks of, you know, credentials. Yes, I have gone into different sort of, you know, fields of education, even if it is Western. But at the same time, that means it's just like me giving charity. I'm not going to put aside certain people because of their beliefs and not help them and give them charity. It's the same with my work. So most people don't agree with that, and that's fine too. But I help everyone and anyone, regardless of their background and what they believe in. Because as a professional, you don't put your own in. You don't actually guide. That's the difference. There's mentoring and there's counseling. So in this case, again, I think people are just they kind of like feeding off each other, and they kind of like going back and forth like a tennis game to see who can hit the hardest, you know, and then who wins. And for me, that doesn't work, because eventually, you know, it still doesn't make any difference. So as a Muslim, generally, no matter what you believe in, I think we just got to keep checking ourselves. And I don't see anyone 100% ever in any sort of way. And also, I know you said your experience with Ali Dawah, my experience with Ali Dawah, whatever it may be, but that doesn't mean anything to me as far as I'm concerned, because a lot of people are nice to people, but it doesn't mean that they're nice to everyone either. And I'm not saying he is or isn't, but I'm saying that's still no excuse. Just like how there was the Harrods owner, right, who abused certain staff, and I was like, well, he's nice to me, he's this to it. But then people came out actually, you know, accusing him of certain things, and they were witnesses. And a lot of women are always, you know, saying, oh, well, do you double check when you did anything? You know, because when we express ourselves, when we're hurt, we're meant to have patience, we're meant to, you know, give them the extra care. But you know what, that for us takes a toll. Okay, so I just think a lot of the times women are given much more of a hard time and having to do much more, whether we're mothers, whether we're single, whether we're just women, and on top of that, Muslim women, women of color, all of that is on top of us. And these Muslim men do not have an understanding of what we're doing and what we're putting ourselves out there to do. And not everyone is there, you know, to just be a feminist and stand up and be against men. Because for me, I don't believe in that. I believe in men and women being team players and working together. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has not made us enemies towards each other, even if you are going to be not liking or disagreeing. But we are now creating enemies within our own. And like I said, we've got enough enemies already outside of us. Why are we creating it inside? Whether it's a different madhab, whether it's a different caste, whether it's a different ethnicity, background. We've got so much segregation, racism, prejudice. And I call that out even in the Muslim community. So I think with this, again, her reasoning for exposing Ali Dawah's wife was the fact that she was out in public. Yes, it should have maybe have not been online because that's not her choice. But that's how, in this case, if you're a niqabi, if you're a hijabi, just like if I went out tomorrow without the hijab and always online with my hijab, someone will take a photo and do that. So there is a risk. You're married to who you're married to. You're taking these risks. You know, when I speak generally, I always think that I've got a mic on me because I'm used to that, because I just know if it's going to go out, rather be silent. There's no such thing as a diary telling someone else or being out. It is what it is. You put yourself in certain situations, there are risks. And this is one of them. So you can't really blame that person if they're doing right or wrong, because you just, again, if you want to be a certain way, continue that, you know, completely or not. It's no one else's responsibility for your actions. They've seen you, they've done it. So it's both sides.
Yeah. And I think the sister did receive backlash for revealing Brother Ali's wife's identity. I think her reasoning was because his wife brought the sister's content to Brother Ali's attention. You know, I respectfully disagree, you know, as you think, you know, personal experience with people is vital and personal experience with people is vital. So I think it is important to know how you act how people are with each other. But I understand also your point too, in regards to you don't know, you never know what's going on behind closed doors. We say that about husband and wife. You never know what's going on.
Exactly. And also, how we treat our parents, how we treat our colleagues, how we treat certain people of a certain standard level. Again, we do have different faces. We all wear different masks. We all show up differently. We have a true self and a projected self. We go into certain situations and we do show up differently. So I don't buy that. I'm sorry. Even if I was to have a character, even over years, you're married to someone, you know them so well, and they can cheat on you. What does that say? Oh, come on. Yes, that personal experience was personal experience, but look what happened. This is how I see it. And I'm not just talking from my own experience. I'm talking about the hundreds of people that I've coached around the globe. Okay. And I don't just do coaching with relationships or marriages. I do mental health. I'm qualified in that on a high level. I do with neurodiversity. I deal with, police and probation officers giving me and referring their cases to me now. So it's very, very different. And I've gone throughout the sectors to do that. So I don't just come from one perspective. I don't just come from one community. I don't just come from one, ways. I see hundreds and thousands of things. And even that's why I don't give content online, because I think mine is tailor-made. There's no cookie cutter kind of way of giving advice. And even if I do, I'm like, it's very general. And I'm going to trigger you, and I'm not really talking to you if I do. And if I do, switch off, block me. That's it, simple. You don't have to listen. Or if you want to take it in, take it in. Not everything applies to everyone. There's not always a right answer to everything.
No, definitely not. But I think in terms of, if you've had a personal experience with someone, it's good to share that personal experience.
Fair enough.
And, and again, from dealing with these people, I don't think the intention was bad. It was more about this doesn't represent the deen well, or that this is religious misguidance.
I have a problem with that too. I'm sorry. I mean, I don't know, because people say that to me all the time. I'm not here to represent anyone. If you want to make me someone, you make me. If I'm actually going out there and saying, yeah, I'm a Muslim role model, I'm, this, that, and the other. And yeah, of course, when you have a certain responsibility when you're speaking, but everyone has their own journey of doing certain things. And yes, again, like I said, the sins are open a lot more for women to be seen. But I think the sins that are hidden are much worse generally. Okay. And you, by even talking about it, fine, you're just erasing it for me. Okay. And I know a lot of people are going to hate what I say and what I do. And I really don't care. Wherever I go, I always get the hate. So for me, it's not a problem. But that's why I feel in my own way, I am very sort of like, successful in entering different paths in my life, because I can actually understand different perspectives. I do understand this different context. I do know that at the end of the day, this life is not about you just correcting. I just look at myself and correct myself every day. I just want to improve myself. I don't have a job to improve anyone else without their permission as well. You can't just go out there and just tell someone and call someone out in public, even as much as it's our duty. You got to know their circumstances behind. There was a story of one woman going to the mosque wearing hijab. She was seen outside without it. She just reverted. And this woman judged her. She goes, luckily I learned my Islam before looking at this woman, because she could have turned away. Even if you are holding on to one single thin rope of Islam and you're not wearing your hijab properly, you're not doing that. Islam tells you, and if you're not reading 5 times, but you're reading at least, creating that habit, all of these things, you hold on to it. But these people are trying to say, take it out, don't wear it, don't do this. Even those little things you hold on to, who knows at the end who's really going to be accepted? Nobody knows. We're all trying, we're striving. Islam is about striving. And yes, some people openly just want to make fun. But again, we still don't know the intention. So as far as I'm concerned, I don't believe in the business of telling people what to do and giving them advice without their permission to accept it and ask for it and want it. I can't go out there and even coach a client without a client's signature of approval. So it's the same thing in Islam. You can't just go out there on the street and say, oh no, sister, you should do this, you should do that. Invite them, talk to them, get to know them. It might completely change your mind completely. This Dawa business as well, I find it really patronizing and annoying, because you're going into someone's life or openly online and just calling them out without having absolutely no clue about anything. And you can really cause someone some real damage. And I've seen that where people have turned away from Islam. I've worked with people who were Muslim and they've actually gone out. They came to Islam, saw the community, and they've come out of it because of the community. Now, how much wrong is that? So that's why I'm really, really passionate about this.
Yeah.
That, those people shouldn't exist.
No, I agree in the terms of, you know, it should be done privately if you want to give someone nasiha, if you think someone is maybe following it wrong. For example, we have many reverts, and maybe some reverts don't know certain situations. But again, like you said, it's better to do it privately rather than publicly, because you don't know someone's journey. But I would say that, you know, we are Muslim, and if you're online and you're in the public eye and you're representing Islam, then you have to, you know, we have personal experience to represent our religion as well as we can. And if someone follows a more liberal ideology and they've been hurt by men in the past, I can see why it can be perceived in a different way. Look, I really dislike Tommy Robinson, you know, but I would never dox his wife and his kids so they would be harmed. He's accountable legally and spiritually for what he does, but not his family members. And I also see Muslims online say and do things that I don't agree with, which I do try. Again, I try and address that behind the scenes via DMs. But unless it's someone like Andrew Tate or Myron, who, you know, are blatantly bending the deen to suit their political views or to pander, you know, to their Islamophobic audiences. And if so, like Ali Dawah, I will just call that out publicly. And I don't see Ali Dawah in the same category as those guys. In fact, he calls those types of guys out for their conduct also. I do think from now on in, brothers online should maybe take a softer approach to guide sisters, especially if you're not the sister's mahram. You know, maybe get sisters to speak to other sisters offline. And sometimes it's better just to ignore people and say nothing, which can be easier if they're, you know, if they're just doing makeup tutorials or masculinity courses. You don't need to say anything. And as Muslims, we need to let go of toxic Western gender ideologies because they're mixed with ideas that are not exactly Islamic. You know, we have the extreme feminist types on the right who are not Muslim, hate Islam, and use that feminist ideology to degrade our men as well as our women to fit in with their ideals. So feminism is a harmful ideology to women that promotes, you know, it promotes promiscuity, abortion, nudity, not having families, women being masculine instead of feminine. And there's no doubt that our men do need to defend us and be more considerate towards us. But as women, we need to defend our men too, especially if they're on deen, regardless of the mistakes that they've made in the past. It's all about uniting. How do you think the situation should be handled by all parties involved going forward?
Well, they give 1,000 excuses when they see these men or their friends who are like, you know, half kind of naked, even, you know, when they are doing weights and showing because it's like, you know, a gym or their promotion of whatever, and they're Muslim. And I really do think that. And I'm sorry, again, I will say that these men do not protect women. They protect their own men, even if it's wrong. And even if they call them out, it's never as harsh. I feel that, you know, we really do get, you know, mountains and, you know, rubble thrown on us where they just get, the other men get the pebbles. That's how it works. And I'm actually, you know, a victim of that most of the time as well. And I don't just get Muslim men after me, you know, trying to discount everything I say. They will forget all the content that I've spoken about on mainstream, fighting extreme rights or, you know, anti-Muslim hate. And they'll talk about how I look, what I believe in, this, that, and the other. And I'm like, seriously, where is your education there? What are you doing? How many people are actually out there in my situation to be able to speak and be visible and debunk and also, you know, take away misrepresentation? Okay, maybe I should be, you know, much more perfect, but then that's my thing to do and see. And also my beliefs are different to you. You know, it is what it is. You know, my scholars, my madhab, it is different to you. But is that really the important thing? Why are you so worried about how I am performing in my faith compared to other things? And I know that with most women, they are there giving content to other people. And why don't the men talk about other men more? But all they want to do is talk about women. If you really are there to do something, be those leaders to guide other men and talk about them. Let the women talk about the women to a certain extent. And that's the other thing. And especially if you're doing it publicly. And then, you know, then you get the outside people just using that as an excuse to say, oh, look at them. You know, we don't even need outside hate because we get it from inside as women. Come on. I mean, that's shameful in itself. The women, no matter, even if, you know, even in Islam, it says, you know, we have a different heart, we have a different mind, even neurologically and in neuroscience and our brain matter and all of that, you know, our hormones and our sensitivities are different. There's no excuse, but to an extent, even it is an excuse if you are going through healing, through pain, through divorce. So you have to just ignore it. Again, do it privately and then leave it out. But it's like as if you're like authoritarily, doing something. Just like how when we see people in Iran, okay, who have been extremely abused for not wearing hijab, and then they completely, go against the religion completely. And people, for me, I have fought those Iranian activists to say, as much as I am there to say that, we should be wearing hijab, but do not tell us not to wear it, in this country where we have our freedoms and our voices. Okay, if you've been through trauma, if you've been, done wrong in a certain way. So I'm very fair with my analysis. And I do think also we are talking to people online that's coming from very, I think, Muslim men extremist views. So in the Western world, we do not accept just being told, oh, just listen to whatever's being said and accept it. That is wrong, because we see, like, we've had the grooming gang situation in the UK, and how women have been groomed because they have been told to do certain things and act a certain way. Then you get Muslim men, advertising that to be a real woman is just to shut up and put up no matter what your man says. That is dangerous rhetoric. So again, I just feel we have to put things in context. We have to be real. And because I'm dealing with real world issues, headlines literally every week for the last 4 years on live platforms, and speaking for those voiceless people out there who are Muslim, even if they have my belief or not, but I'm speaking for you. And then to be attacked, not just from people outside my community, but inside, for every single thing except for the content that I'm making. No support, no thing. Fine, don't support me, but then don't hate on top of the hate that I get anyways. That's the difference. And so when I see a woman who's divorced, who's young, who's going out there and sharing that, because most men will just degrade her for just being divorced without even knowing her circumstance. Oh, we can understand why she's like that. I can understand why she's divorced. Like, automatically, I get that all the time. You have no idea how much it takes, for me to actually have a really respectful, decent relationship with my ex-husband, who is comes from a very high, sort of like, profession, with his family, diplomat sort of background. And it's not easy to still be respected in his family and mine, and have my sons, 2 of them, having both. And other women, they've been abused, they've been, and I haven't had that, but still it was hard for me. So imagine having that, the trauma, the abuse, and people on you. You don't just, it's worse than grief, because at least that person's gone away, but that person keeps remain. And it's a constant reminder. And then your children are still attached. So people are not talking about that. They're just talking about, oh, she's talking this. That's probably her way of letting out what she's saying. Say, I'm okay, but it's still probably a call for help. I can read between the lines. Sometimes you can't just see what you see on the outside. You have to understand what's on the inside. And for me, that's just her saying, I'm surviving. I'm trying to get through this. When we're talking about Ayah, for example, yes, it's not in the right way, but give her some grace, give her some time. That's how I would see with it. And I think someone that's going through something like that, and then to add on top, just because she comes across looking strong, does not mean that she doesn't go through it every day when she turns that camera off. And she has it anyway from her family, and then from the public on top of that. I think it's really unfair to just kind of judge. And then you got men, who are coming across really aggressive and really harsh without knowing facts. And then, of course, you invite yourself to open, unnecessary things, which shouldn't be. But then in her state, what do you expect? Because I fight back. I'm confrontational. You pick the wrong woman. Unfortunately, that's what's going to happen. We all have different personalities. I'll probably do worse than Ayah if that was me, honestly. I'm not even going to lie.
Yeah. I mean, I want to let the audience know that you have defended men in our ummah, but the incident involving you recently, I agree with you that you were wronged. It was disgraceful. But you know yourself, that all brothers, like you said, you don't generalize. Not everybody is the same. And again, I don't like seeing Muslims bickering online, and I hope this is the end of it, and that no harm comes to Brother Ali or his wife or the 2 sisters involved. I hope that they can all find peace. His wife's identity is out there now, like you said. That's it done now. So inshallah, she's safe, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the best of planners. And whatever people think of this brother and the mistakes he's made, overall he's done more good, and he's put his neck on the line to defend Islam, which I respect. And inshallah, everyone involved can learn from this and put it behind them. With the grooming gangs, those types of men are not a representation of the majority of Muslim men. They're not following Islam properly. So you can't, just expect many, and there's many of our men doing Dawa that have condemned that. So you can see both sides, that men do condemn other men that are doing wrong. But again, like I said, there's maybe a softer approach that needs to be done with sisters that are maybe going through a lot of the things that you've spoken about.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, again, I'm just generalizing. I'm not saying anything. I don't know anyone's intention. I just know from a woman's perspective, because I'm a female, and I just think that a lot of us give a lot of slack to men, even as women. And I think we need to stand up more for our sisters, because at the end of the day, if they are even holding on with a tiny string, we need to help them and pull them up from that string. And eventually they will see their ways and they will actually themselves come out of it. That's how I help people. I don't tell them what to do. I give them a hand and I transform them by taking them on a journey themselves, whether it's directly or indirectly. But if you're just going to come on there authoritatively, very harshly, just like even nowadays with children, is very different to before. And we've got to improve, not just, the times of our parents. Islamically, we have to improve with, better knowledge, better ways, learning from history, making those mistakes and looking back. And I think, again, the bar for me in Islam is so high. Islamically, we have to be doing so many things and we don't even conform to even a quarter, right?
Yeah.
I myself. So, I have to just constantly reflect and constantly be self-aware of it. And obviously I'm much more mature. So maybe I have that journey already behind me. My work already gives me that vision, even from a younger age. But I do think that there's a lot of young women out there. I see their fight differently. I see their fight because they're also not fighting a battle at home and they bring it out to the public space. And maybe they do need to actually reflect privately on their own and seek that therapy themselves, even if they are therapists or coaches as well, because we all need our own reflection. And for me, the best is, of course, is to pray, but also to seek that help, professionally ourselves to go through it. Because I had to, when I was training, I had to be coached myself. I had to have certain things, and it brought out things in me that, I can only see it myself now because I had to sit on the other side of the chair. Just like when you're presenting and then all of a sudden you're the one that's sitting as a guest, seeing both sides. So that's how I look at it. And I really do think that, again, we need to respect each other's beliefs and different ways and different journeys. And as much as Islam says this, that, and the other, we are trying. And for some of us, it's really, really hard. I come from a family that don't even wear hijab, and not even my mom. Okay. And a lot of people, they just look at me and they think, oh, you're not wearing it properly, and this, that, and the other, and whatever it is. And I'm like, you don't know my family. And it was a struggle for me to put it on. If I took it out tomorrow, they will be really happy. And not that they don't practice, but they practice differently. For them, it's more about prayer and giving in charity. And you don't have to necessarily look the part. And they're actually scared for me to wear it because I'm in the public space speaking on these platforms, and I'm a target more than anything because I do wear it and I put myself out there. So that's the other thing for my safety. So I think, again, I think everything is context. Everything has to be understood when there is much deeper stories. And what you see online, don't just react. I think that's what it's about. People are triggered. Oh, she's wearing makeup. Oh, she's, we're not wearing hijab properly. When it's hot, I'm not going to lie, I wear this hijab as a turban because I can't stand it. I will just, I'll feel like I'm as if someone's strangling me as I'm getting older as well. I feel it's really, really tight on me. And I do wear it definitely if I'm going on holiday. And it's not the perfect hijab, but that's what I do. That's who I am. And I ask for forgiveness. I ask for more strength to be better and strive. But then I think I'm doing so many other things to compensate, and that may come later, but I'm doing so much more that other people can never do and have the courage to speak and whatever. So, there's some sort of like trying to balance, trying to do things, and you can't just see one person with one direction and one lens. There are so many different factors that we are all working on each other and ourselves. So why can't we see ourselves as a whole? I might be, doing something 100% not right here, but I'm giving, 200% somewhere else. So that's, again, how we look at it. And I think if we didn't just respond and worry about why is that triggering me? Why is that woman dressed in that way or speaking in that way triggering me? If she is talking about divorce, from what perspective is she? She's saying that I am, I'm happy I got divorced now. Doesn't mean she's encouraging it. I mean, people are not that foolish, seriously, especially the young people. You might think so, but they're not. They do want to get into relationships. I've always encouraged it. Most women do encourage it, but they're talking from their own perspective, their own sort of, experiences. And unfortunately, yes, online, it can be taken out of context. It can be seen as a promotion. But again, we're not here saying, I've never said I'm a Muslim role model. I never said I'm, here representing Islam, even though I should, and I should be better. And I'm really trying. And a lot of the times, even now I'm speaking, I look back and I'm like, I shouldn't have said that. But you know what? This is me. I am imperfect. And I have to be okay with being imperfect. And only then I can reflect back and think, okay, I'm going to learn from it. So give me a chance to reflect, learn, and correct myself. And also to make mistakes. How many times do we have to make mistakes as children, let alone, when we grow up, we think we're going to be perfect. We're not. We're adults still learning and striving. Okay, so we need to understand how our nafs works, how our soul works. You have to pray constantly. You have to give up certain things. You have to sacrifice in order to get a level of not thinking about the dunya. Because at the end of the day, even being on YouTube and speaking like this all the time, it is a business. You are actually attracting a crowd and a following. Then is your thing about the following and you saying it because of the following? I know so many people are like, oh, I can't say this because my followers won't like it. I'm like, who cares? You have to be true to yourself, but then they get so carried away having to only produce content for their followers. I hardly have followers. I'm not an influencer. I don't put hashtags or anything. People are like, you have so much great content. You don't even have, and because I'm not interested. For me, it's just a diary for my stuff so that I can show what I've done. If I have a client, I'm like, this is what I do. I'm open. This is what I address, if you want it or not. I'm not there to gain because my work is not followers. Other people, they rely on it as a job. But then if you're mixing it with your faith, then that job and that faith, I'm sorry, is not in line even with faith if you're going to act differently. And I don't care if it's a mistake. That means it's more on your head saying that you are giving Islamic advice to a sister, but in the end, you're not doing it correctly. How much is on your head more so? She's not there saying that she's giving advice to sisters and giving da'wah, and she's there, quoting Qur'an and, hadith and things like that. She hasn't done that. So, I mean, there's a difference. You can't compare apples and pears and make it the same. So that's my point. Generally, if in a way, if Ali Dawah, for example, we're using this example, if he's trying to compare himself even to I and say, oh, she's promoting, divorce, she's not there saying I'm here to even promote or not promote anything. She's not in that business. She's just talking about experience. So again, he's putting himself down to even talk like that, compare or even give it any attention. How much attention has she got out of this? How many people? She's actually been on certain I've seen come up. I only came out of it because I think it was some local paper that was talking about it, about the online sort of thing. So he created it and exacerbated it even more than it should because he put it online. And it gave him content. It gave him things. So is that really even Islamic? To pick on someone's wrong and fault and highlight it, make it so exposure. You're planting a seed to somebody as well at the end of the day. If they didn't know about her, they didn't hear about her. Now she's also got hate. That's also because of you. That's an exposure. That's planting a seed in someone's mind. If she just said, I'm not here promoting divorce, that's your interpretation. That's your takeaway from what I'm saying. Isn't that is un-Islamic too? Because you're just, assuming, because people don't understand when women speak. We do have, even I always say to men, I feel sorry for you because we don't say things straight. We want to assume to a certain extent. We do have certain ways of saying things the opposite of what we actually mean because of, we want to get it out in it differently. We want to project differently. We want to show that we're strong and we whatever, but it doesn't necessarily mean that way. So, it's all about psychology. And I really think that we have to be very careful. You want to talk about Islam and whatever, we have to perfect ourselves. That's why I'll never be one. I'll never talk about Islam because I can't perfect myself first, let alone to give someone else advice. Yeah. I can't. And unless it's my family and I feel I can talk to them or a close friend, if they ask, and if I say, look, I have something I want to tell you, you don't like it. Do you want me to share it or not? I still won't just say it like that. You have to be so careful. But, people, these keyboard warriors or these, so-called million viewer followers, whatever they have, it's my right now. No, it's not your right. I'm sorry. Not in that way. It's not.
Yeah. No, I do. I like what you said about, all of us reflecting on ourselves and looking at ourselves and our mistakes and learning from our mistakes. And I think that that's what's more important, is
on yourself. Yeah.
To conduct ourselves better as men and women. And, especially right now, and we should be following Islam as the only guide and not man-made ideologies that are not Islamic. And I think we should, family should never be involved, and I think inshallah both sides calm down and like you said, reflect on what has happened and how we can conduct ourselves better and how we can unite, because you know, inshallah, all of us become more Islamic with the content that we put out online. God only knows the Ummah really needs it right now. And we really do need to be united right now with everything going on in the world. I think we should be focusing on the world issues rather than these petty little issues that are not important. I really appreciate you coming on today, sister, and sharing your views and sharing your side and me sharing my side. It was a good contrast to have both sides shown. But thank you so much for joining me. And as always, it's really nice to speak to you. And thank you everyone for watching. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Salam.